and welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul Dirienzo, and so happy to be allowed into your living rooms this evening to discuss these important, very, very important subjects. My guest, Chris Flash, returning, third time here, at least third time's a charm, I hear.
At least 3 times, yeah.
Yeah, to talk about the latest issue of The Shadow. And here it is, The Shadow, and look who's on the cover.
Great, amazing art by Danny Hellman. We've got to plug him. He just did this. We had a quick discussion about the elements we wanted in it, and he just created this amazing cover.
Right.
This is the previous issue he did, which is on the stands recently. There you go.
Oh, so we have both.
Yes.
That was before and after.
When they were basically two faces on the same statue being worshipped by the banksters, and now it's Trump having successfully stolen the election by way of Republican operatives. There's major...
that's the issue, right? That's the main. The election was stolen. That's a banner headline if I ever saw one. What is the proof of this accusation or this allegation?
Well, in our lovely country, which guarantees freedom of the press to people who own a press, we're able to publish these sort of things based on their highly investigative research and journalism by, in this particular case, Greg Palast. He's one of very few real, true investigative journalists. And the mainstream media in the U.S. won't touch it. They won't report it. They ignore him. He's been relegated to broadcasts on something called Night News, which is a BBC broadcast of their version of Nightline. He appears in London Guardian. He has to publish his stuff that he finds corruption in America. He has to publish this and broadcast it in England because his own country, the media, is so corrupt here and so bought and controlled by the government and corporations that they will just ignore his reports. In this case, Greg Palast, this is one of 4 reports we had by Greg Palast, itemizing in real detail how the election was stolen by Republican operatives by this program, one of which is called Crosscheck. It's a program that they use to purge millions of names of voters from the voter rolls. Very conveniently for the Republicans, these names are usually black people, Latinos, and Asians, who mostly vote for Democrats. In this particular case, they purged millions of names of voters from the voter rolls. It wasn't so much about Trump winning, it was more about the voters that would have voted against him being removed from the voter rolls. When the voters come to discover that their name is no longer on the roll in their precinct where they voted all their lives, they're placated by being given a provisional ballot.
Copy of The Shadow?
Well, not a shadow. That'd be nice. Maybe they get a little angry and do something about it. Right. But they're given a placebo. They're given a placebo ballot, and it's called a provisional ballot. And they fill it out, and they, thank you very much, sir, and he leaves, and they just toss it in the garbage. It doesn't get counted. And this is one of many methods they use by which to basically scrub the vote, purge the voter rolls, and there's other methods, of course, skewing the results of electronic voting machines. And, of course, the good old coup de grace, the icing on the cake, which is the Electoral College, a group of unelected, unaccountable political operatives, political appointees who decide who the president's going to be regardless of the popular vote. So they have many methods and many mechanisms in place to ensure that their guy gets in.
Is Donald Trump your president?
No president's my president. The Yippies had an expression, nobody for president. If nobody wins, nobody loses. Well, nobody is my president. My president is nobody. That's
Excellent.
how I feel about it.
All right, I think you're winning me over. Okay, Flash is great. Well, so where can people find this? Because we're not going to tell them everything that's in the newspaper. We're going to go over some of the key points in the newspaper. Where can people who want to go out and find this newspaper, which is really cheap? I mean, guess how much this newspaper is? $1.
Yes,
what can you buy for $1?
We've kept the price frozen at $1.
Less than a cup of coffee.
Rising printing costs, and we've kept the price low because the whole idea is to get into people's hands. We're not trying to make money. Any money that comes out of this rolls back into the next issue that's coming. So the objective is to get this into as many people's hands as possible and not lose money, hopefully, doing it. Well, you can get the shout out if you want to do this right now. We can do this at the end of the show. Okay.
Let's do it a few times.
Okay, on the Lower East Side, there's a place called Blue Stockings Books, a really wonderful progressive bookstore on Allen Street, 172 Allen, I believe the address is. The classic Gem Spa newsstand at the corner of St. Mark's and 2nd Avenue. East Village Books, a very cool dude from our neighborhood on St. Mark's between 1st and A. Morris, which is the Squatter Museum, 155 Avenue C between 9th and 10th Streets. An non-imperialist,
Antifa, anti-fascist?
Anti-fascist bookstore. It's really cool. They're on Carmine Street, just below Bleecker and the West Village. Really great. Uptown, we have Sisters Uptown Books. We have Revolution Books, and we have Word Up Books. In Brooklyn, we have Desert Island Comics, Spoonbill Books on Bedford Avenue, Book Thug Nation on North 3rd Street, Better Red Than Dead, which is a really cool complex of little shops. Mm-hmm. They built these shops out of tractor trailer containers.
Oh, really?
It's really cool.
In Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn, on 846 Broadway, the corner of Lewis Street. It's a cool little complex of cool little shops. It's so neat. Better Red Than Dead, really great people. And Human Relations Books on Flushing Avenue. We're looking for more locations, of course. So if anybody...
Well, how do you have a message? How
well,
can people get in touch with you with a place that they can...
Ask.
In their neighborhood.
We can be reached at this mailing address. If you have anybody who knows good locations where we can sell the shadow and more locations that would carry us on consignment or buy them outright. If you want to order your own shadow by mail, we'll be happy to send them to you. We need $1.50 for postage on top of the dollar, unfortunately. The postage cost exceeds the cost of the cover, which is ridiculous. Also, if you have any information, news, feedback, please email us at shadowpress@rocketmail.com.
All right, we'll show that again later on in the program.
Thank you very much.
So, okay, great. Chris Flash. And all right, so we're looking at the latest issue of The Shadow, which is available at all these locations and by mail from the location you just
and we'll be in D.C. on January 20th, by the way, for the coronation of...
or the counter-coronation.
The orange president.
Right. The orange-haired devil, you mean? All right, so let's go to the next. He's not my president either, so... Okay, let's begin. There's so much as we can't do everything.
Well, if we're going to talk about the election real quick, could we have a minute?
Yes.
I mean, Greg Palast. Okay, bless this guy's heart. This guy's amazing. He works on a shoestring. He works with all volunteers. He's a whole crew, and the guy doesn't make money. He's not doing that. He's doing this for the same reason we do The Shadow. He's an investigative journalist to get the truth out. He's not trying to make $1 million. Yeah, he made a documentary called Best Democracy Money Can Buy. He made a book of the same name. He's not getting rich on this. He's getting information out into people's hands. The first thing he did was he covered the corrupt New York State primary and all the other primaries around the country, how Mayor de Blasio and Scott Stringer, well, there's the camera, okay, Scott Stringer and Mayor de Blasio enabled Hillary to steal the election, the primary from Sanders, who clearly beat her in the popular vote. She did what the Republicans did to her. She did to Sanders. So she got a taste of her own medicine.
What comes around goes around?
Sure enough. So Sanders won the popular vote in all the primaries, but she had delegates and, quote, super delegates. Again, anonymous people, unaccountable people, we don't know who they are, and they pre-decided to vote for her before the election, before the primary even took place, thereby giving her the primary, giving her the win before election.
Are you one of the people who believe that Bernie Sanders could have won the election against?
I think he won the election, but they didn't.
President Orange.
They didn't let him win, and I think he would have definitely beaten Trump to a pulp. And I think that was a last hope. I really had faith that this guy could pull it off. I mean, let's say if he became president, I would have gotten behind him. I mean, he was giving a very positive message. Was he threatened? Was his family threatened? Was he paid off to get behind Clinton and bow out of the race and not contest the corrupt primary results? We'll never know. And if he's 73 years old. If his family was threatened and he backed out of the race, I honor that because you're not in his shoes, but we don't know what happened. Is he corrupt and took a payoff? Was he pretending to run against Clinton in order for her to facilitate a run against Trump by putting all the Sanders supporters behind Clinton? You know, I don't play this little chess game.
It didn't work very well.
Well, we don't play this.
Everybody thought that's what they were going to do.
We don't play this little game.
That was the assumption was Trump didn't have a chance. But did you ever think that Trump was going to win?
No.
I thought he was going to win from early on. I argued he was going to win.
How so? What gave you that?
Because I travel a lot in the Midwest, and I used to live in the Midwest. And
I saw the Trump signs outside of New York State. I did. And upstate New York, too, for that matter.
Right. That was serious.
But, you know, I based my assumption, and really I was pretty determined that she was going to win. Not that I wanted her to win. Based on just previous history, the way the media was covering it, the media was trouncing this guy, going overboard to attack him. And it seemed like definitely the fix was in for her. And then when she did what she did in the primary, I'm like, okay, here we go. There's the first step. Yeah. And then you look at the make-believe debates. Neither one of them is discussing issues. Nothing meaningful.
It just amazes me that so many millions of people have voted for Trump who didn't feel he should be disqualified for the things he said about gays and lesbians, what he said about disabled people, what he said about people of color, his white supremacist views in politics, his involvement in the Central Park Five. I mean, there was so many, his association with Bannon, you know, and we talk about him.
I think his values reflect their values.
You know, alt-right and Breitbart.com. I mean, these are outspoken white supremacist outlets. His support, the support that he so weakly, really denied the support of the head of the Ku Klux Klan there, David Duke. This guy was like the worst nightmare that ever came about, and how people could not have said, whatever I feel about the Clintons, whatever I feel, how could I vote for a person who said these things?
Right. Well,
and millions of people
look at the quote choices they give us. Okay, every 4 years it's the same little circus, the same little like bread and puppet circus. Okay, and it's like, what really do you have? You have Drano versus lemon-scented liquid plumber. What's the difference? They're both poison for us. They're both poison for the country. She wasn't going to help the country. He's not going to help the country. He and his people are going to make the robber barons of yesteryear look like pikers. They're going to rob and loot and rape the U.S. until they get finally put in jail, most of them, or impeached, or maybe even taken out. Who knows?
Now, do you think that Donald Trump is going to make it to January 20th? He's going to actually become the president?
We're going to... See, the problem is every president before him...
Some people are saying, like Michael Moore, who predicted he'd win, that there's no way he's going to actually take office, that he's going to be disqualified.
I regret to see that this guy will take office. He'll make a complete mockery of our country. The entire world's like scratching their heads, like, what the hell is wrong with the U.S.? But... what was I just going to say? I forgot my train of thought here.
That's all right. Goodness. It was good. You made your point. Let's look at the newspaper. I want to see some of the other articles. Talk about the election. We'll come back to the election. So, while it wasn't the only bad thing, there was some articles here. One that I thought was sort of optimistic that I contributed about the medical marijuana having swept so many states, including California.
What's that in Trump's hand?
What is that in Trump's hand? In the photo of the magazine I'm holding. Wait, here it is. What's in Trump's hand? Oh, here it is. What's in Trump's hand?
Well, there's a quote here. It says, in some ways, I think legalization is good. But yet he appointed this guy, Jeff Sessions, to be the Attorney General, in spite of the fact that a large number of states voted to legalize marijuana on November 8th, Election Day, despite the will of the public
Why do you call him Jeff Sessions? He's Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III. Right?
Too much, man.
His name is Beauregard, all right? Let me tell you something. He is
I can say a B word, but I'm not allowed to curse.
He is a fascist. He's a fascist. He has a long...
Hey, he seems to be smoking something, too.
He's smoking something, too.
And here's his quote. Good people don't smoke marijuana. So let me ask you, if you're the Attorney General...
He said worse than that.
If you're the Attorney General of the United States and the public has voted, a large number of people have voted to legalize the use of marijuana, a relatively harmless, in fact, a completely harmless substance, then who the hell is he to declare an agenda against marijuana, basically violating the will of the public?
Well, what did he say? He said worse than that. Well, he said that the only thing wrong with the Ku Klux Klan was those boys should stop smoking pot or something like that. What did he say about that? He said... and that was actually, people said it was a joke, but it was about the KKK in the aftermath of the trial of two Klansmen for slitting the throat of a black man in Mobile, Alabama.
He's tying that to marijuana use.
Right.
What a lunatic.
Right. He said the Ku Klux Klan would be all right if they didn't smoke marijuana.
This is like the shit from 1937 when they tried to demonize marijuana, when marijuana like was first becoming illegal because Hearst and the Harry Anslinger was behind this campaign.
I thought SNL was pretty funny though the other night. Who they made as head of DEA?
Who's that?
Walter White.
From Breaking Bad.
From Breaking Bad.
Perfect.
Right? He was head of the DEA. He said he was really happy there wouldn't be any more competition from Mexico. So,
well, this is the same kind of shit. You would imagine after 80 years we've advanced somewhat to actually tell the truth about the
I'm not joking.
benefits of marijuana.
We're laughing, and it's serious business. But I'm not joking because here I did another article. We had neocon fascists.
You got a triple header here, man. Look at this. Pause on 2 pages, 3 articles in a row.
Neocon fascists to advise Trump. Michael Ledeen, the new national security advisor, the same job Henry Kissinger had, is General Michael T. Flynn, and it's a real Flynn flam. He's associated with Michael Ledeen, and Michael Ledeen was involved with Oliver North and the bringing of
He's connected to those crew.
And arms back and
this
forth
is business as
between
usual.
Iran and the Contras using Air America.
So whether you get a Clinton,
which was a CIA
or you get
airline.
a Trump, you get the same people. They keep coming back and they keep pulling the same agenda.
Yeah, he showed up with Trump, and their big thing. He showed up starting with Bush, actually. But the big thing with people like Michael Ledeen, and I don't know if they're going to bring back, some of these people like Douglas Feith, who's was involved, who has actually wanted for war crimes. In Spain, or was investigated for war crimes for his role in the Iran-Iraq War. These folks are involved and developed a drone program. Michael T. Flynn, who's now the National Security Advisor, his claim to fame was in making the drone program more efficient as a killing machine, that there was almost an industrial nature to the murders that were going on with the drone warfare.
Here's what I was going to get back to, my train of thought being lost, that every president before Trump has enabled him with all these extra police state powers and higher technology to have all of these things at his disposal, including what you just mentioned.
President Obama was the one who put Michael Flynn in charge of the drone warfare.
Great. So,
although he did fire him at some point.
So basically, it's the same players, just different heads, different presidents. But basically, it's the same players, the same agenda. You're going to have this incredibly like psychotic technology and laws, repressive legislation that prevents people from demonstrating in large numbers to protest the government. It's going to be really bad, and Trump inherits all of these
people are
all of these
all
new tools to suppress dissent.
Right.
Really quick about Greg Palast, real quick. We have one quick second.
Go ahead.
Greg Palast has several reports. The first one was about how the election was stolen through the cross-check program. His second report here in the shadow is about how the New York primary and other primaries are stolen by Clinton, who ripped Sanders off. A third report is how the voting machines enabled Ohio vote to be stolen on behalf of Trump. I just want to get this before we get to the next
go
week.
ahead. Yeah.
And also in North Carolina, there's something called caging. It's a little special scam by which they mail letters to voters, but they put on the letter, do not forward. So if the voter's not home and doesn't get the letter, they say, you don't live there, you lose your vote. You're in the armed services, you're overseas, you're not home, you lose your vote. You're traveling, you lose your vote. They have this, and it's illegal. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's a lawyer, he's declared that this is a felony. And so now, thanks to Greg Palast, and by the way, you can get his reports on gregpalast.com, P-A-L-A-S-T, gregpalast.com. Thanks to Greg Palast, a lot of grassroots organizations, including religious groups, who churches bring all their parishioners to vote en masse, are now taking steps to sue the people responsible for this. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, man.
No, good.
But GregPalast.com, he deserves all the support you can give him, believe me.
So people want to learn more about this stuff. Besides going, they can get a copy of The Shadow as well and read Palast's articles directly here in The Shadow, which is, by the way, not at this point available on the internet, right?
We're working on our website, I'm sorry.
No, well,
it's going to be shadowpress.net when we get the website
Look at my fingers, they're dirty. My fingers are covered with ink.
We've had this discussion before.
It's beautiful.
There's something special about holding a newspaper in your hand. Your brain retains
and
processes things differently when you see them in print. And you can also pass this on to your friends, and it stays around a little. It resonates longer.
Absolutely.
Beautiful centerfold art by Seth Tabachman, wonderful Lower East Side artist.
Allows you can't do this on the internet. I mean, this is bigger than most screens that people have for watching the internet. They usually watch on their little phones or stuff like that. Here you can see something in its full size. How big is this? Well, how big is this page?
This entire page is like 20 inches wide by 15 inches high.
Yeah, that would be like $1,500 monitor if you wanted to buy that monitor.
But the thing is, your brain looks at a screen and it's actually bad for your eyes, and you process it and you forget about it. This you will take a mental photograph of, you'll remember, and this is engaging.
And what's this one? Define fascism.
This is a beautiful piece by Seth. He wrote this and he executed it. Wonderful.
The infamous, or I should say famous or infamous political cartoonist and artist from the Lower East Side who's been covering...
He's published World War III Illustrated, great graphic novels about Len Weinglass, the radical attorney, A War in the Neighborhood, about the battles on the Lower East Side.
And what is this that he's doing here? This is a story, this is a definition of fascism. This is something why Trump really, this time it's not Chicken Little. We're not crying wolf. This guy, Trump, might really be the real thing. Adolf
It's
himself.
pretty clear. The fascism fascism defined as a marriage between corporate, state, and government. And that's really what we have here. The corporations have taken over.
It's hard to deny.
We've been corporatized completely. Basically, Seth here is saying that the fascists will adopt a progressive message, but address it to their audience. So you have like Sanders, you have Trump kind of,
mimicking Sanders, some of the things
mimicking
he said.
Sanders. So appearing to say something similar, but he's twisting it a different way. All these different methods and different things that have taken place.
It's weird sexuality.
It's a really beautiful piece.
This is a new word. I had to look it up. Transgressive sexuality.
I've never seen that either.
Yeah, it's a term, transgressive. I looked it up, and that is, his weird, like, pussy grabbing. I don't know if I can say that. Can I say it? The President of the United States said he grabbed a woman.
You can say pussycat.
No, did not the president of the guy who's now the president-elect of the United States while campaigning.
Oh, he said that word,
and
it was on the air.
Grabbed a woman's pussy.
It went on the air, yeah.
I mean, if he said it, why the hell can't I say it?
George Carlin has a great routine about this. Not the 7 words, but another routine. He says you could say hitting a ball, like you hit someone's balls on the baseball field, but if you say that, something else, and use that word in a different context, you can't use it on the air. It's a
right,
so
but
retarded.
not anymore for pussy.
Well,
pussy cat. Meow, meow. We're talking about
The guy's a pig. Bottom line, the guy's
It's
a pig.
ridiculous.
And he's a dangerous pig because, again, all the previous presidential administrations have given themselves so much power. Now that they're out of office, Trump inherits all of the new legislation, all of the new technological tools, all of the new powers that were provided and created and put in place by previous presidents. It's not going to be pretty what's coming up in the next 4 years, folks. It's not good.
Let's jump ahead here. There's a lot of stuff here. Now, the plot to kill Martin Luther King.
There's a great, amazing activist attorney by the name of William Pepper. Totally underrated.
He's been a guest on the show.
You've had him on the show.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and I played a tape of it on the 23rd.
He's a really sweet, wonderful guy. He's devoted most of his life, to a lot of progressive causes, but among them, finding out the truth behind the assassination of Martin Luther King and currently Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's working to help Sirhan win another trial. Kind of hard to do considering how much time has passed.
Sirhan is the person
the
who
alleged
was charged
assassin of
Robert F. Kennedy.
In a nutshell, Sirhan is facing Robert Kennedy. He's like 5-10 feet away in front of him. Robert Kennedy gets shot at close range, under his armpit and behind his neck, and his powder burns all over there, and Sirhan never gets any closer than 10 feet in front of him. How does he do that behind Robert Kennedy and kill him? He's clearly not the shooter. Forensic evidence. But anyway, back to this particular piece.
Yeah.
William Pepper spent 30 years investigating this. It's really amazing. He wrote this book called The Plot to Kill King, and that's the cover of the book. That's Blue Stockings Books, by the way. And he discovered the actual assassins and the people participating in the conspiracy to kill Martin Luther King. Can we name the assassin on the air here?
Yeah, and he did too. He did. We just did again.
Well, apparently it's a Memphis cop by the name of Strausser.
Well, this is Let Them Talk.
Okay, well, we're talking.
We name the names.
This cop named Strausser is
here.
very old, but he's still alive, and he basically admitted to one of Pepper's operatives in casual conversation that he did it. And what are you gonna do? Get after me for something I did 30 years ago? Basically saying, you can't touch me. It's too long ago. And there's also a backup team of snipers waiting in case Strausser didn't do the shooting. This allegation in the book is a biggie because he's alleging that Jesse Jackson and other priests in Martin Luther King's entourage were on the payroll of the government, that when King was shot and that famous photograph of him laying on the motel balcony has all the priests and everyone pointing toward the rooming house where James Earl Ray allegedly made the shot. The shots actually came from the front of the motel when hit King straight on, and Jesse Jackson starts pointing that way, and they all start copying him, and he's pointing the wrong way. The allegation in the book is that Jesse Jackson moved Martin Luther King's room from the courtyard inside to the front room exposed to the street where he can get shot from behind some bushes, which got conveniently removed the next day. That the guy who owns the bar next door grabbed the rifle and hit it while the shooter got away, the cop got away. And James Earl Ray was being set up to be in position. He was supposed to be somewhere, kind of like Lee Harvey Oswald was set up to be in the movie theater to get nailed. And that he changed his mind because of a flat tire. And as a result, he saw all the commotion about Martin Luther King being shot, and he split town.
So people can read more about this in the
Absolutely,
paper.
Very thorough coverage.
We're down to the last 5
Running
minutes.
out of time, sorry.
Yeah, tell us where we can find this newspaper again.
Well, real quick, just again, and thank you very much for that. On the Lower East Side, you can find The Shadow at Blue Stockings Books on Allen Street, Gem Spa Newsstand at the corner of St. Mark's and 2nd Avenue, East Village Books on St. Mark's between 1st and Avenue A, MORS, which is the Museum of Reclaimed Urban Space, the Squatter Museum on Avenue C between 9th and 10th Streets inside a squat building, and non-aggressive, I forget the name of his store. Anti-imperialist, non-imperialist, something books. It's a really great little political bookstore. 34 Carmine Street, right below Bleecker. Uptown Sisters Uptown Books, Revolution Books, and Word Up Books in Brooklyn. Desert Island Comics on Metropolitan Avenue, Spoonbill Books on Bedford Avenue, Book Thug Nation on North 3rd Street, Better Read Than Dead on Broadway by the corner of Lewis Street, Human Relations Books on Flushing Avenue. And we're looking for more locations to carry The Shadow. If you happen to know any of your viewers, a good location that will carry us on consignment, we'd love to have more locations. And you can always reach us here at email if you got a great story. Let's say you're a writer and your editor refuses to print it, or they twist it and distort it and edit the hell out of it. We'll print the full version. We're not afraid of anything as long as it's the truth and accurate.
Investigative reporters, you know where to come.
Right on.
This is the place to go.
Well, we got a lot of mainstream reporters who write for The Shadow, and they use fake names sometimes because their editor killed the story. Now, they don't want the story dead, so they give it to us. Paul Cranston, the co-founders of the Yippies. One of the co-founders of the Yippies.
And the Realist, editor of the Realist.
And the Realist, a great underground newspaper called The Realist.
They really set the standard for this kind of thing.
I swear to God, he's one of our heroes. He wrote this great little piece remembering Lenny Bruce. It's a 50-year anniversary since Lenny Bruce, the great comedian who died for free speech, his 50th anniversary of dying, and he wrote this thing for the what was it called? The L.A. Times, the Los Angeles Times. They edited the hell out of it. He gave it to us. We ran it unedited. Nothing controversial in it. Come on.
All right, so we don't have a few. So
I'm sorry. Okay,
no, you don't have to be sorry. That's great. I'm glad we talked to because I want to talk about the other obituaries. You have 4 obituaries.
Yes, unfortunately. Well, we have Mark Lane.
For those who've passed.
We have Mark Lane, the investigative reporter. Again, another activist attorney, just like William Pepper, who devoted most of his life to political causes and a couple of controversial cases, but. He was devoted to finding out who killed Kennedy.
He was the one who really started the whole Kennedy assassination.
Rush to Judgment, 1964. You can get the video that he made. He made a movie called Rush to Judgment.
Right?
Rush
so
to
you can learn about it here. So who else?
Not just the book, but the movie. And Fidel Castro.
Yes.
A lot of controversy over Fidel Castro.
I bet there is.
Tell you what, I'm not into any governments, but I can tell you, it says a lot when the leader of your country can walk around among the people without bodyguards, without an armada of heavily armed security people.
And what else? So
I don't think any U.S. president can do that. So obviously the people did love him, no matter what anyone says.
All right, cool.
Also got stories about, the sadder ones are the people more close to home. 2 really good friends of ours, and they were Shadow contributors. They wrote for The Shadow. They were political activists, and they were also journalists. One was you should tell us because you wrote this really great piece about Eric Williams,
right? From the
WBAI correspondent, Shadow correspondent.
Yeah, oh no, much more than that. Much more than that. Right, much more than that.
Oh,
right. All these things. And,
amazing guy.
My good friend, our good friend, and dearest friend, our brother, Eric Williams, who passed away, and really way before his time, and had done some amazing things, including his on-the-air coverage of 9/11 as was happening from basically the bottom of the building as it collapsed for WBAI. And I don't think he has received anywhere near the recognition he deserves for the work he did, especially on 9/11.
Do you think that contributed to his death? Because a lot of people exposed to that crap when he came down have died within a few years.
COPD related.
Yeah,
right?
but that's a pulmonary disorder.
That's something we could examine. All right, we have a minute and a half to go.
And our good friend Bob McGlynn, he was active on the Lower East Side for many years at all of our demonstrations, helping us fight the police when all the riots were happening, that the police would start on the Lower East Side. Here's a great shot of us confronting the cops back in 1989 at the corner of 7th Street and
there's Bob McGlynn, right?
And there's Bob in the circle there. It's a great shot. You'll get more information about Bob. He published a newsletter. I remember the most funny thing, not funny, but the most bold thing, Bob, they were running out of time, but real quick, he went to Chernobyl. He went to Chernobyl after the disaster took place in Russia with a friend of his, and they started giving out leaflets about the dangers of nuclear radiation and exposure to nuclear waste. They got arrested by the KGB, but that's pretty ballsy coming from the U.S.
And it's interesting that you would mention you have 2 people next to each other, obituaries, both who died way too young, way before their time. One who was at Ground Zero, the other was at Chernobyl.
Both devoted to their
right.
cause.
And we're going to be talking more about that kind of thing maybe in the next issue of The Shadow. I have some stories about the real story behind 3 Mile Island for the next issue of The Shadow, and we're already talking about what we're going to do next. But thanks a lot, Chris Flash, for joining us on Let Them Talk.
Thank you. Again, just real quick, The Shadow can be had at these locations, and I don't need to do so much.
This is it right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. See you next time.